Week on Shift Happens, we deconstruct the conversation we had just recently with Mark Halpern with regard to insurance. Mark is a fascinating fellow because he works with people that are high net worth investors and high net worth entrepreneurs and people that have 7 and 8 and 9 digit portfolios, which is the sort of thing that you might not think of very much if you're listening to this podcast. So there are a couple of things that I wanted to draw to your attention. First off, bullshift. The industry, the financial services industry, is always talking about how you can get there and how you can aspire to being better. But it doesn't always talk about how you can be ultra wealthy. It's usually more just more basic in its aspirations. But it always talks about how, oh, you're going to be great and you're going to have all this money. But it doesn't usually talk about the problems associated with that money. So, do you have insurance in place to make sure that you're covering off the risks associated with your premature passing if you're an ordinary Canadian? And that's the sort of thing that the industry doesn't talk about. And as a result, a lot of people are optimistic because they don't really think about the insurance. And that's, let's say, 94, 95% of the population. And then there's 5 or 6% of the population that actually have a great deal of wealth that they can accumulate over time. And those people, by the time they get to later in life, oftentimes don't even need insurance. So I want to take a few moments to talk about both. Let's begin by talking about what Mark Halpern talked about. He says his clients, once they get to a certain point, literally do not need insurance. They get insurance as a means of doing their estate planning to determine how much money they want to be able to leave to charity and to their family, and try to keep a way to protect against CRA doing too much to erode and minimize the size of their estate. So insurance can be used for people at the very high end of the income and asset scale to do estate planning and complex things. But that's not really what we're talking about for most people here, is it? Most people, and when I say most people, again, I'm talking about maybe 95% of the people that will be listening to this podcast, have a very basic insurance need. And the advice that I would give in terms of an actionable thing that you can do if you haven't already done so is that you should sit down with a qualified specialist who works in insurance and do a reputable needs analysis. Now, a needs analysis can take many forms, and different people will have different rules of thumb that they will apply when they do their needs analysis. But as a general rule, what it involves is making sure that you've got money to take care of the financial liability associated with your passing away early if you are the main or perhaps even the only breadwinner in your family and people are dependent upon your income stream to maintain their quality of life. That means that you should probably look at things like being able to pay off your mortgage, being able to maybe give your surviving spouse, if you're married, let's say, some time to get back on their feet by replacing some of the income that would have otherwise been earned by you if you were working. Most people would say that's 1 to 3 years worth of income. And then also being able to put your kids through school. So let's do a very quick example of what a needs analysis might look like. Let's say you have a $300,000 mortgage and you earn $75,000 a year and you've got 2 children and they're very young. The insurance that you might need, and many people will simply buy term insurance, and if they can pay it over 10 years, great. And if they still need it, then maybe they'll renew for an additional 10 years. And hopefully by the time 20 years have gone up, the insurance need will have gone to either a very low number or will no longer exist whatsoever. But using the example, you have a $300,000 mortgage. That's $300,000 of life insurance that you need to pay off that mortgage. You're earning $75,000 a year. If you want to replace, let's say, 2 years worth of income, some people say one, some people say none. If you've got a spouse that's got a high income and the mortgage is paid off, others will say 3 or 4 or 5 years. But let's say 2. 2 years at 75,000 is another 150. Now we're at 450. And then you're going to have to put 2 kids through school, and the cost of an undergraduate education, all else being equal, might be something like $75,000 per child. 2 children, that's another 150. So adding it all up, that's 300 plus 150 plus 150. That's $600,000 of insurance as a very simple, basic back of a napkin example of what you might be doing with regard to a needs analysis if you need to get some insurance for yourself. I hope that helps. We'll see you next week.
John DeGuy is a portfolio manager with Design Securities in Toronto. He is the author of both Bullshift, How Optimism Bias Threatens Your Finances, and Stand Up to the Financial Services Industry, Protecting Yourself from Well-Intended but Oblivious Advisors. The books are available online and in bookstores everywhere. The opinions expressed on Bullshift and Shift Happens should not be construed as investment advice. You can reach John at jdeguy@designsecurities.ca or at 647-STAND-UP. That's 647-782-6387.